Hi, I'm Sarah with Sew, and today I'm going to be showing you how to sew an overlap V-neck on a neckband. And if you want to sew a center seam V-neck, just like this one here, there's a link in the description. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out my other how-to videos. All right, good luck sewing your V-neck. All right, your shirt should be at the point where your neckline is constructed, so your shoulder seams are sewn. This is a raglan, so I have my armhole seams going right to the neck, so my neck is ready. So the first thing you're going to do is take your neckband and iron it wrong sides together. Just put it wrong sides together and make sure you mark the middle of the cut edge there along the entire length. And now with your neckline, we're going to draw on the seam line. My seam allowance is 3/8 of an inch, so make sure you find out what your seam allowance is. And you're going to draw a parallel line just at the center here for like an inch on either side of the V-neck. It's really helpful to know where the center is too, so when you're cutting out your garment and you have to cut it on the fold, it's nice if you can kind of give yourself a little fold line. So if you even haven't gotten to this part yet, when you're cutting it out, make sure you kind of put a little crease here. It'll really help kind of determine where that center is, and it'll help you keep your V-neck perfectly straight, and it should fall right on the intersection of these two seam allowances right here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to sew our neckband point to point here. So I want you to take it just like this, don't twist it, and then wrap it around just like this. So you're going to stack these four corners here, and these are all the cut edges. The folded edges are intersecting right here at the top, just like this. So just take it, make sure it's not twisted, and stack them. And we're going to tack this together with a few stitches just on this little corner here. So stay inside the seam line. I'm going to use my straight stitch machine. You can too. Make sure it's nice and flat like that. And if you have a little bit of unevenness right there, just true it up right now. Just like that. Hopefully you don't have any. Mine folded a little funny. All right, so now we have our neckband folded and overlapped. And now we're going to draw on the seam allowance on this piece too. So same thing, we want that intersection right there at the center of the V. So I'm going to draw my seam allowance on here until they intersect just down here at the bottom. All right, so with a straight pin or an awl, I want you to poke it right in that intersection that we drew on the neckband right there. Just poke it right there in that intersection, your pin or your awl, whatever you have. And then I also want you to poke that same spot on your shirt right there at that intersection, just like that. All right, and we're going to swing the neckband over so that the raw edges are lining up. And we're just going to stitch this to that point. All right, so I've brought the camera down really low here before I start sewing. All right, so we have our neckband here. And remember, we stacked our points. So this intersection is right on top of the intersection on your neckline on the shirt. All right, and then line up your raw edges. And we're going to sew just inside the seam line, so just to the right of your seam line, down to where our pin or our awl is. You can walk it one stitch if it's like a half stitch away, just right there. Now leave your needle down and then turn your garment just so that it's kind of perpendicular to you. And now we're going to clip the neckline of the shirt only. And we're just going to clip it straight down. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight, but you're going to clip down there to almost where your needle is in the fabric. Just a nice healthy clip. And now I'm going to hold this firmly down just like this. I'm going to swing my neckband around, and I'm probably going to push my shirt a little to the left there until the raw edges on the neckline meet right there. And I'm kind of pulling really gently just so I don't get a bubble underneath, but don't pull too hard. Just pull, just keep it firm so that it stays nice and flat. And same with your neckband. And then you're going to keep sewing. Just make sure you stay just to the right of your seam allowance. And again, we're just going for like an inch on either side. So here we go. So that's what it looks like. Here's my stitch line right here. And this is what it looks like on the other side. You see this gap right here, this cut piece of fabric, that's the slit that we cut into the neckline. It's spread apart so that it can relax and give us this V. So look, we already have a nice looking V. You can see a little bit of my chalk there, but that's it. The stitching looks great. So all we have left now is just to serge it onto the neckline. All right, so I have one clip here. And remember how I said to clip the middle of your neckband? All right, so I'm gonna put my shirt inside out, and I'm gonna line up the neckband. That center notch that we did on the long raw edge, we're gonna line it up to the center back neck, just like this. I'm gonna use one clip to hold it like that. And we're gonna start at the center front. So this is how it's looking right now, right? This is my neckband right here. There's my shirt. Let's make sure these threads are to the raw edges so they don't sneak out of our seam line. And so the temptation is to sew with the neckband facing up, and you can absolutely do that. It feels like that's what you want to do because this is the smaller piece, and this might be really fiddly for you. And just a little tip, if your fabric is super curly here, you can use stuff like starch to get it to behave, but I didn't own starch till very recently. So what I always do is I try and iron it a little bit, but honestly, ironing makes this stuff curl even worse. This isn't rib right here. This is a jersey, so it gets really curly. So what I like to do is I fold it the way I want, like I folded this just like this, and then I put it under a ruler with a weight setting on top of it for a while, and that gets it to calm down. And I usually don't cut this stuff until right before I'm going to sew it because it'll just start curling if it's sitting in my bin. All right, so we're going to start at the center front here, and I'm going to flip it over. The reason I do this is because you see all this fabric. This is the fabric right below that V, and there's a lot of it there. And so this way we can make sure none of it's going to like blump over our seam, and we'll catch it in there, which is like the most common thing. So we're going to start on this little corner that very first thing we sewed, and we're just going to go straight down. And I'm going to try and put my serger needle kind of sink up to this basting edge there, even to the left of it. And as long as I am kind of respecting that and kind of going along with it and blending it in, we're gonna get exactly what we've already basted. All right, so just make sure that all this other fabric here is as flat as possible and keep it out of the way. And I'm paying attention to where my needle is in relation to that basting stitch. Don't worry about anything else. All right, now that I have it under the machine like this, now I'm going to hold the center back like this and kind of just kind of gently stretch it. Maybe yours has more, you have to stretch yours more than I do, but since mine is jersey, it's a little flatter. But if you're doing rib or something stretchier, you might have a little bit more stretch in yours. All right, and then we're just gonna go all the way around the neck. And at this halfway point, I kind of start lining things up for the next leg. One really important thing when you're doing narrow neckbands is to try and keep your seam allowance really consistent, because otherwise your neckband will get thinner and wider. All right, so now here we are, we're approaching the finish line, and you see this is my original basting stitch right there, and so I really want that left needle to go just to the left of that and enclose it. And whether I stay to the left of it the whole way or maybe I just line up with that basting stitch, that's my goal so that it stays nice and even. And I'm still respecting all this extra fabric right here in the V. Make sure it's all pulled out and it's nice and smooth right here, because that's where we're about to sew. It'll feel kind of terrible right here, but it's not. It just feels awkward. All right, there we go. And so I was able to go just to that left of that stitching there. And so this is what it looks like on the inside. And with my tail here, I'd shorten it a little bit and I would pull it to this underside and just tack it in there with a few straight stitches. And then let's see what it looks like on the right side. All right, that looks really good. We have a little bit of chalk there, which will go away. And now you have a perfectly sewn overlap V-neck